Sign.
Right after I put the numbers on my mailbox.
Yeah, right, okay. I have a question for you. This lady called me today, and I told her, I said, I have no clue as to what you're talking about here. But she asked me if it would be possible to pass legislation.
We're going to start the meeting of February 2nd of the Planning, Zoning, and Historical Committee.
Ashes could be scattered.
I'm going to read through all the legislation we have, and for the consent agenda, if you want me to pull anyone out, let me know at the end. So the first one is RS 2015-1374, sponsored by Evans, Pidemore, and others. It's a resolution authorizing the Director of Public Property to exercise an option to purchase property to be used by Metropolitan Parks and Recreation as a park. And it was administratively approved on January 22nd. The next one is BL 2014-989, sponsored by Scott Davis, and we have a letter here in support. It's an ordinance to change from RS5 to SP zoning for properties located at 1219 and 1221 North 5th Street to permit up to 7 dwelling units. And it was approved with conditions and disapproved without conditions on 11/13/14. The next one is BL 2015-1011, sponsored by Moore, Pidemore, and Hunt. Is an ordinance approving a lease agreement between Metro and STEM Preparatory Academy, and it was administratively approved on 11/24/14. The next one is BL 2015-1012, and is sponsored by Pidemore, Anthony Davis, and Hunt, and it's an ordinance authorizing Metro to abandon approximately 90 linear feet of existing sewer easement and to retain a portion of the existing sewer easement for the property located at 627 Gallatin Pike. It was administratively approved on December 3rd last year. The next one is BL 2015-1013, sponsored by Anthony Davis and Hunt. It's an ordinance authorizing Metro to abandon approximately 230 linear feet of 8-inch sanitary sewer line and easement and to accept approximately 1215 linear feet of 8-inch PVC sanitary sewer and approximately 1074 linear feet of 8-inch DIP water main and approximately 369 linear feet of 4-inch water main for properties located at 1804 and 1806 Graybar Lane, 3505 Hopkins Street, and 1919 and 1921 Woodmont Boulevard. It was administratively approved on 11/25/14. The last one for the consent agenda is BL 2014-896, sponsored by Scott Davis. It's an ordinance to change from RS5 to SP zoning for various properties located along various streets to allow detached accessory dwelling units with all other standards of the RS5 district being applicable. It was approved with conditions and disapproved without all conditions. So that's all the legislation. I'm going to tell you what letters I have. I have a letter from Scott Davis asking that we defer one meeting, the 989, that was the second one, and then that we approve the last one I just read. This is from Scott Davis. Then we have a letter from Council Lady Evans for 1374, which was the first one I read. We have another letter from Councilman Pidemore, and again, that is for 1374, 1011, and 1012, asking for us to approve it. And then the last letter is from Council Lady Moore, asking that we approve 1011. So should I pull any legislation out of the consent agenda? 896, all right. Do I have a motion to approve all the other ones on the consent agenda? Do I have a second? All in favor say aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, so all 1374, 989, 1011, 1012, and 1013 were approved. Now we're going to open the discussion for 896. Is it working?
Okay?
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I'm going to vote no on this. I haven't changed my opinion on this since it was originally introduced. I just have a philosophical block against making residential single property residential. I don't think it's within the character of the neighborhood. I don't think it's within the, I just don't agree with the concept. So I'm going to vote no.
Do you have any other comments or questions? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So 896, correct?
Yes,
Yes,
that's the last one we read.
I just wanted to express my support of this bill based on conversations with Councilman Davis as someone who represents a neighborhood very similar to the neighborhoods represented in this ordinance in terms of layout, in terms of design, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of rhythm of the street. By all practical considerations, it's very similar to neighborhoods within the area of East Nashville that I represent, where these types of detached accessory dwelling units are proved to be quite popular. They often are found in, not on every block, but they're found on almost every block in areas where they are permitted. They're popular for rental, they're popular for guest usage, and they contribute to the aesthetic quality. They oftentimes bring about and activate the alleys of different areas, and I just think that they do offer a very unique living situation that is very needed in a lot of our urban neighborhoods, to have an affordable unit that provides a very attractive housing product. So I would just speak on behalf that I find dadus to be very popular for a number of reasons, and based on the feedback I've received about the interest in these neighborhoods, allowing dadus within their areas, again, where the infrastructure exists, where there are alleys, where there are guidelines for this to take place, it will not, I think, be anything other than a positive impact on the community. So I wanted to express my favorable support of this.
Thank you, Councilman Westerholm. I think we have Councilman Gilmore in the queue.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to ask Carrie Logan, I see she's here from planning, if she could explain it to us and just tell what it does and what opportunities it allows. Thank you.
Are you on? There. Oh.
This particular request is for an SP for about 238 acres, and this SP is for an area that's currently zoned RS5, which only allows single-family dwellings. The SP would allow single-family dwellings plus detached accessory dwelling units, and it matches the language that's in the code for other areas that are zoned 1 and 2 family that already allow detached accessory dwelling units. So use-wise, it's just the single-family uses plus detached accessory dwelling units.
Matt, I have another question. So the detached, how does that look? Explain how that would look. Are those the mother-in-law suites that would be in the back of the houses, perhaps?
Yes, they are all required to be behind the primary structure. There are limitations on the square footage of the living space and the square footage of the building footprint, both of those limitations, and there are limitations on ownership. So unlike a 2-family property where you could do a horizontal property regime to have 2 separate owners, in this particular case with the detached accessory dwelling units, they would be required to remain under the same owner, and one of them has to be owner occupied. So not only can they not be sold as individual units, but they also can't be rented as both rented as individual units. One of them has to be owner occupied.
Okay, so when you say, I think I followed you until the last part. So if you rent them, it has to be rented to the same family? You can't, or you cannot? That's the piece I'm not clear about.
You can only rent one of the units. So if you're the property owner, you have to either live in the main house or the detached accessory dwelling unit and rent out the other one.
Okay, and then I have one more question. That clarifies a lot. So how does it interact with maybe the alleyways? I heard some questions about that. What does it do to the fabric of the community as it relates to that?
Because they're all required to be behind the primary structure, a lot of them are required to take access from existing alleyways, and are more than likely seen on existing alleyways because they have that additional access point to the rear.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Council Lady Allen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just also echo Mr. Holmes' support. I think this, as we've gone through the National Next process, we've seen so much discussion about the need for housing affordability, and this offers another option for smaller homes, which are not being built mostly in many of these areas. And I think it's a clever solution. When we went through the process of passing the DADU legislation, I think the planning department would like to have extended that over all RS districts, but there were many districts or neighborhoods that had worked very hard to get that RS zoning, so they graciously kind of split the difference and said, okay, we'll allow these in R zonings, but not in RS. And then you have a neighborhood that turns up and says, we would like to have these, and so they now have the option of asking for it. And I think if there is wide support from that neighborhood in asking for it, and I have a neighborhood in my district that may well go through this process as well. So I think this allows it to be in an area where people want it, but we have allowed the rest of the RSs to hold on to the type of not allowing that they are interested in. So I support this.
Thank you. I think Councilman Tempeni is interested.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just asked the Planning Department, where are these folks going to park? How is the parking going to affect those communities? How many of these houses from detached from the regular home, the detached in the back, how many of these will be sitting on the alleyway versus those that will not? And like I said about the parking also. Can you answer that?
Sure. Well, one of the provisions is that to be eligible, and this is also for the R districts, to be eligible to do a detached accessory dwelling unit, you either have to have the alleyway or be over a certain square footage. And when we did this study earlier in 2014 about detached accessory dwelling units, that was the square footage of a lot that we felt could accommodate the primary structure, a driveway, and another detached accessory dwelling unit. They would be required to have all of their parking on site. So they would not be allowed to build an additional unit and not park it on their property.
So I guess that
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Chair. So I guess that would mean that there would be no parking on the streets. That would be illegal, and traffic and parking could take care of putting up the signage and stuff like that, correct? Because we have a lot of problem right now with parking on the streets as far as our city goes.
I don't believe it would be illegal, but it would be used for parking like the remainder of the units in the neighborhood, but there would be parking provided on site.
Okay. So right now, for it to conform to that, it has to be either an alleyway attached or it has to meet a square footage. And do you know what that square footage is?
I believe it's 10,000 square feet.
10,000. Okay, thank you.
It may be 15, but I believe it's 10,000.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions from the, yes, go ahead, Councilman.
I had another question for Ms. Logan, and you may or may not be able to answer this. I don't know. The SP was originally created for specific pieces of property that had unique characteristics that needed to be dealt with. So what was the reasoning behind using an SP for this huge amount of acreage rather than doing a simple downzoning from RS to R?
little of this will be, I think, directed to Councilman Davis, but I believe the situation with our zoning is that it would also allow traditional two-family structures, either detached or attached two-family structures. And in this particular neighborhood, they were happy with the single-family residential zoning, but wanted the option of detached accessory dwelling units without also permitting two-family structures.
Is there, what is the largest SP that's been done to date in terms of acreage or size?
I would have to look into that and get back to you by tomorrow.
Do you think there's been one larger than 238 acres?
We have a couple of fairly large ones, but I would have to get that information to you by tomorrow.
We did the Gallatin Road corridor, which was eventually overturned because it was an overreach. Is that right, Mr. Cooper?
Well, it was overturned by the court because the court determined that Metro did not follow its own procedures in adopting it. Subsequent to that, the council amended the zoning code to allow for these larger area SPs that are not specific to that property. So this is being, or would be adopted under the new regulations, which do allow the larger area SPs.
Do you have any idea what the largest SP we've done so far?
Not off the top of my head. No, planning would have to look at the maps for that.
Ms. Logan, would you find that information out before us tomorrow? I'm still going to vote no on this.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions? Yes. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I have one more question, and I am just asking because I love my friend Ms. Logan, and it may be my ignorance. Okay, so normally we do SP for one particular parcel in the past, right?
There are a variety of SPs. Some of them are for one parcel, some of them are for multiple parcels, and some of them have been for rather large areas.
Okay, and then so I just wanted to know now, why would this not be considered spot zoning?
Generally, spot zoning would be something that's not consistent with the surrounding uses in the general plan.
Okay.
And in this particular case, while RS5 is one of the available zoning districts that would be consistent with the general plan, this SP allowing single-family uses and detached accessory uses would be consistent with the character of the area and the general plan.
Because of the first use, which is the RS5,
Right.
but not the accessory dwelling. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Council Lady. Councilman Tempeni.
Yeah, at this time, something just don't seem right about this big, large SP zoning. It's a little too much, and I'm kind of like my council member Gilmore here, that I'm kind of curious about spot zoning through this, and this would not set a precedent for other large SP zonings as far as spot zoning. Right now, I can't support it in the way that it is right now. So I'll be voting no. Thank you.
Okay. Do I have a motion in favor? Yes? Any second? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Would you mind raising your hands? 2 in favor. Yes. Okay, I'm voting in favor, so,
Do you want me to get him for his vote?
yes, please.
Recorded now?
Okay. Okay. Would you mind see if he's around?
Yes.
Thank you. Berkeley's not in the committee. Yeah, she's not on the planning committee. Thank you, sir. Okay, we have 2 no. She's not on the committee. Okay, so we have 2 no, we have 3 yes, and then the rest abstain? All right, so the motion passes. Thank you.
It does pass?
I vote yes. So I wanted to clarify something. Once the legislation 989 before, when I said I was approved, what I meant is that the request for deferral of one meeting was approved, and that's what it was approved. So just clarifying that. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.